This is Pokemon Sacred Gold, a version of Pokemon Heart Gold that adds Pokemon from up to Gen 4 and some much harder battles to the Johto region, but we aren't here for fun. This is the second game in the Drayano Gauntlet, a challenge created by pChal where you have to beat 4 difficult RomHacks all in a row without using a damage calculator, and if you wipe in any of them, you go all the way back to the beginning. The first game in this gauntlet is Fire Red Omega, go check that video out if you haven't, but if you don't feel like it or you need a quick refresher, this was the team that we beat the Elite Four with, and that means they are considered dupes for the rest of the challenge, so no more Alakazam spamming for me. Let's see if we can keep this run going and take down a hardcore Nuzlocke of Sacred Gold. This is the Drayano Gauntlet. Welcome to Nuzlocke City, a place that I've seen way too many times. It took me like forever to get this patch to actually work. My game kept like freezing when I used the portable PC, but we're here now. So after we grab our starter, Blacksmith the Cyndaquil, we head through Route 29, Cherry Grove City, and Route 30 to meet up with Cynthia? Hi, I guess? Well, she did give us an Eevee named Consultant, but like, don't you have a title to protect or something? Wait, no, that's the next game. Watch your back. Mr. Pokemon gives us an egg, we beat up our rival, then after sorting out a huge misunderstanding, there was an island? He just did my taxes, that's it, I swear. It's officially time to start this run. With Pokeballs in hand, let's grab our first 5 encounters. Route 29 nets us a Sentret named Gymnast. Route 46 adds Masseuse the Geodude. In Cherry Grove City, we fish up a familiar face in Krabby the Boxer. Route 31 introduces Private Eye the Weasel to the team. And finally, the Dark Cave gives us an early fighting type in Crossing Guard the Makuhita. If you add Quilava and Eevee to that one, we've got a pretty solid team coming together. Violet City, home of the first gym and the Berry Guy. God, I love the Berry Guy. I could just kiss his little headband, I love him so much. I forgot to mention this earlier, but there's an NPC in some of the Pokemon Centers who sell you every item you can steal with Thief from up to this point, which is awesome. Thank God for modern convenience, huh? If you want to get your hands on this ROM that I'm playing right now, it's in pChal's Discord, so go check that out. I'll link his channel in the description. We could grab a Kanto starter here, but that sounds like no fun at all, so I'm just going to fish up my Magikarp instead. Welcome Performer back to the squad. Well, get ready to welcome him back in like a few levels. Our first real order of business in this run is the Sprout Tower, where we catch a Ghastly named Dentist, but more importantly, we have to fight Elder Lee. But with our current team makeup, we get through it pretty easily. With that out of the way, we grab Keeper the Mareep from Route 32, then make use of the chilled ore we got from the Elder to evolve Eevee into Glaceon, whose ice typing is perfect for a certain flying type trainer who's waiting for us to take him on. Speaking of, let's see what you got, Faulkner. Faulkner leads with Doduo and I lead with Glaceon. We learned Icy Wind at level 13, so that makes pretty quick work of Faulkner's lead, taking it down in one shot and sending out Farfetch'd second. This might be a fighting type in this RomHack, but without any super effective stab to threaten our ice type, all it can do is use a pretty weak Aerial Ace before going down to a single Icy Wind. Third up is Swablu, but this thing is way weaker than the last flying type that we just one-shot, so I'm sure you can figure out what we do next. You know, context clues? Or you can just read the screen, I guess. We level up to 16, which is allowed in my rule set since we started the battle at the cap, and Chatot is out 4th. It got a special attack buff in Sacred Gold, but even with 112 base stat, Jesus Christ, 112? Really? Well, even with that buff, it can't bring Glaceon below half before it falls to our 4th straight Icy Wind. 5th up is Murkrow, the Scarlet and Violet VGC legend, and it finally makes us use our held Citrus Berry, knocking Glaceon down to the yellow before recovery. Then it goes the same way as all the rest of Faulkner's flying types. That leaves him with only his ace, Pidgeotto. I don't want to get greedy for the sweep, so I swap into Flaffy on a resisted Aerial Ace, and then after tanking a tackle, we hit a Thunder Wave to slow it down. From here, Geodude swaps in to take care of business. Rock Throw isn't quite a one-shot KO, but even after a Mud Slap drops our accuracy, another one still connects on the next turn for the KO. With that, we've claimed our first gym badge of the run, and trust me, there's going to be more where that came from. Before we can explore the rest of Route 32, we've got one last thing to take care of over here. After grabbing the Rock Smash HM, we can go to the Ruins of Elf and put it to good use. Since there's only 2 encounters here and one of them is a duplicate Geodude that we already have, that guarantees that we add Surgeon the Nosepass to the team. This should be pretty good for the upcoming gym battle. Route 32 is long as hell and should be 2 separate routes, but whatever, so let's head into Union Cave. We're actually going to skip over this encounter until we can add a special Pokemon from here later on, so that means our next encounter is actually on Route 33, a Swablu named Janitor. Not super useful right now, but maybe down the line. Welcome to Azalea City. What the fuck is going on? Bro, it's a well. Chill out. Well, we go down there and sort this all out, grab a Slowpoke in the Slowpoke well. obviously. Then we make pretty quick work of Proton before grabbing the final encounter before our back-to-back boss battles. Instead of grabbing a starter, because I just don't feel like it, I hatched the egg I got from Elm here instead, so Farmer the Togepi joins the team. We meet up with Silver just outside the Ilex Forest Gate, who challenges us to a battle. It's not super worth mentioning right now, but he'll be a pretty tough challenge later on. With him dispatched for the time being, we've got one of the big walls from this game standing in front of us. Bugsy leads with Butterfree and I lead with Gyarados, who's been pre-damaged to 1 HP. This might seem a little insane, but since we're faster and Butterfree doesn't have a priority move, it's actually totally safe for us to just use Flail here. That nets us a free KO on Bugsy's lead, and second up is Yanma. Now, since my Gyarados has a speed IV of 2, we can't continue the sweep, so I swapped a Geodude on a resisted Ancient Power before Yanma tries to run away with a U-turn, bringing Heracross out to tank the incoming Rock Throw. I swapped a Quilava, but Damp Rock Heracross sets up 7 turns of rain, putting a damper on my plans? I'm sorry, my fault. Quilava gets a bit of chip with Flame Wheel, then Togetic comes in to tank a couple of Aerial Aces before finishing the job with an extra Sensory. Yanma's back in town now, but I let Nosepass tank the Ancient Power this time before it U-turns out again, this time into Pinsir, who eats our own super effective Ancient Power. I'm assuming it wants to use super effective Vital Throw against my Rock type here, but since that move always goes last, we're free to finish it off with another Ancient Power before it even has the chance to use it. Bugsy sends out Beedrill next, so I swapped a Togetic on the now Grass type move Cut, then we trade a couple of Sludge Bombs for a couple of extra Sensories, and my Flying type comes out on top, taking down Beedrill and bringing Yanma back out again. You know the drill at this point, it's using Ancient Power, so I swapped a Nosepass to tank it, then another one on the next turn, before we finally get rid of this scaredy cat, leaving Bugsy with only his ace, Scyther. I swapped to Glaceon to tank the incoming U-turn, and since it doesn't see a kill now, it uses Swords Dance, as we use a super effective Icy Wind that does big damage and drops its speed. With that speed drop, on the next turn, we can... Well, that was scary. Thankfully, we survived and an Icy Wind still gets the KO, but my heart was racing there for a second. Bugsy gives us our second gym badge of the run, and we've got another one coming up real soon. Hey, wake up. It's time for the far-fetched minigame. You don't want to miss this. Isn't that something? Look, he's like running around. Well, at least we got AHM cut, right? Yay. Okay, but for real, we do catch a Badoo named Model here who's going to be really good once we get a shiny stone. This guy teaches basically any Pokemon Headbutt, which is great for a certain Pokemon that doesn't learn any fucking moves. Yeah, great learn set, buddy. On Route 34, an Abra teleports away from me, but I realized like way later on that since I brought Alakazam to the Elite Four in Fire Red Omega, this actually wasn't even a valid encounter in the first place. So as a sneak peek for later, I do fish up a Chinchou named Welder, but we won't see him for the time being. Once we arrive in Goldenrod City, we grab an encounter that could potentially be the best one of this run. The bike shop turned into an archaeological center, so we get given every single one of the fossils here, and we can restore them right away. I decide to pick the armor fossil and add Bodyguard the Shieldon to the team. A 4x normal resist should be awesome going into the normal type gym battle. After we teach Whitney what a Nidorina is, it's time to add a couple more encounters. Could I have hatched all my eggs in these various buildings like the radio station? Apparently, yes, but I didn't know that, so whatever. We get a couple familiar faces from the routes outside Goldenrod now though. Warden the Volbeat and Air Traffic Controller the Tailo. The former is now an electric type in this game, which is kind of cool, but our Gen 3 bird isn't Guts this time around, so I think he'll be a little less valuable, probably. With as much ammunition as we're gonna get, it's time to take on the hardest gym leader from the original Heart Gold, Whitney. Whitney leads with Lickitung and I lead with Hariyama. Fake out for some free damage, then a single Rock Smash actually does enough for the KO here. Taking down Whitney's lead, leveling us up to 25, again, allowed in my rule set, and second up is Lopunny. This thing can't damage ghost types, so I swap into Ghastly and then Morty switches into Wigglytuff as I try to use a Curse. Now that this pink guy is on a timer, I switch into my own pink guy to stall a few turns and then a third pink guy comes out next. What's going on? It only has water and electric type attacking moves, so Roselia is a pretty great counter here. Mega Drain keeps us pretty healthy, but after a Water Pulse Confusion, I just make the swap into Hariyama to finish it off with a Fake Out Rock Smash combo. That brings Lopunny back out, so I pivot back into Ghastly, to bait the switch into Stantler so I bring in Geodude for free. It does put us to sleep with Hypnosis and spams and headbutts, but after our second Rock Smash leaves it with a sliver of HP, I make the amazing choice to risk the crit to finish it off. But clearly, that didn't go well. Sorry about that one. Hariyama comes in to clean it up with Fake Out, then Lopunny is back for another fun round of ghastly pivoting. When Whitney brings in her only other Pokemon left, Miltank, I get to bring in my brand new 4X normal resist, Shieldon. After a super weak Body Slam, I use Taunt to prevent any attract shenanigans, then it uses Body Slam to try and eventually succeed in paralyzing me. In turn, we use Rock Smash to fish for defense drops to make this a little bit easier. After a couple minutes of trading blows, Miltank eventually loses the most boring 1v1 of the video, and now Whitney is left with only the Pokemon that can hit ghost types, Lopunny. Since we're an odd number of total HP, Ghastly can safely come in and use Curse again, leaving us at 1 HP but putting Lopunny on a timer. Listen, I've always said, the extra 1 makes all the difference. After a few turns of us just being attracted and Lopunny spamming agility, Whitney's final Pokemon decides to just take its own life, using a jump kick that we're immune to so it misses and she takes crash damage. With that, the plain badge is ours and we've officially avoided making a girl cry. God damn it. Well, we're not perfect, okay? Guys, I don't want to freak you out, but they're giving away free squirt bottles over here. Isn't that crazy? What a bargain. After we head through Route 36 and catch a Mine-In, we get rid of the Sudowoodo blocking our path, then our great encounter streak continues as Cop the Ledian joins the team. Yay! Eckertique City, home of the 4th gym and a couple of important battles. First, we take down the Rocket Grunt for HM Surf in the Dance Theater, then we get to head to the Burnt Tower, taking down Silver before getting a new ground type to replace the one we lost earlier, a Cubone named Therapist. We got the Thick Club a while ago from one of the Thief Item Scientists, so this is low-key a great addition. After a pretty quick trip back to Goldenrod for some useful items, it's time for another gym battle, this time against the Ghost-type master himself, Morty. Morty leads with Duskull and I lead with Furret? Why? Plus, why is he poisoned? Well, let's talk about it. In this RomHack, Furret has the ability Scrappy, letting him hit ghost types with normal moves when he normally can't. This lets us take advantage of the Stab pre-poison facade. He also has a Pokemon who can hit normal types, his lead Duskull, so when he swaps out to Misdreavus, it gets dropped to the yellow, then we outspeed on the next turn and finish it off. Next up is Haunter, who actually can't hit me at all, but Facade gets a one-shot KO before it does anything anyways. Morty tries to stabilize this battle by sending out his ace Gengar next, but it's a minus speed nature, and I think it's going to be slower than us, which it is, letting Furret get his 3rd KO of the battle with another Facade. We level up to 30 before Shuppet comes out, but if I just destroyed a fully evolved Pokemon, you really think this Pipsqueak can stand up to me? Get the hell out of here. After some Citrus Berry recovery, Morty is down to his final 2 Pokemon, the first of those being Sableye. Facade doesn't quite bring it down in one shot because it's got decent stats, but it just uses Torment, forcing me to alternate moves every turn. This is less than ideal, so after we miss a KO with Ice Punch, I decide to activate phase 2 of my plan, Swellow. Remember how I was complaining that it didn't have Guts earlier? Well, it also has Scrappy now, so that comes in handy. She can make use of Stab Facade now, and 2 turns is all it takes, leaving Morty with only his last Pokemon, the one that can't even hit normal types, Duskull. Facade doesn't quite get a KO, and Confusion Self-Hit kinda scares me here, so I pivot through the rest of my team, doing absolutely nothing with Marowak except letting it burn me for free. Then Togetic puts it to sleep with Yawn before Gyarados finishes the battle with a crunch. With that, Morty just got destroyed by 2 Pokemon spamming a move that his Pokemon should be immune to, and we're officially halfway through our gym challenge. With the west of Eckertique City opened up to us, we have a chance at one of my favorite Nuzlocke encounters. By leading with Nosepass to activate Magnet Pull outside of battle, we've got over a 60% chance at Magnemite, which we hit. Welcome math teacher back to the team, everybody. We meet the Safari Zone guy that I'm too lazy to remember the name of. Then I skip the grass on Route 39 because it was 1 o'clock in the morning and it was all the way over there. But that means our next stop is Olivine City, where Silver calls us a what else is new? Then we grab the Good Rod before using it to fish up a Staryu named Pawnbroker. After triggering the Lighthouse Medicine quest, we've got a couple water routes to travel across now, but we're going to delay our encounter here for a little bit and you'll see why in a minute. Welcome to Cianwood City, home of the 5th gym of Johto and a sitcom-worthy cast of citizens. We've got a cheating wife who's hitting on me, a doctor who gives out medication that he himself says is too strong, a crazy guy giving out placebo bands that make you stronger, and a guy whose deadbeat friend left him with his kid and then disappeared. Someone's got to write a show about this place. We break some rocks until we get a Shuckle named Barista, then on Route 41 we bring Cashier the Wingle back onto the squad, which is great for our encounter delay on Route 40. With nothing left to do on this island, well, at least for now, I know there's going to be some juicy drama coming up. It's time to take on the Fighting type master, well, one of the fighting type masters of Johto, Chuck. Chuck leads with Primeape and I lead with Magneton. Its only fighting move is Focus Punch, which only does damage if the user doesn't take damage on the turn that it's used. So after I broke its attempt to set up the sub on the first turn, it just used resisted moves until I eventually brought it down with Shockwave. Hitmonlee comes out second, so I swap to Haunter on the high jump kick that he's immune to, which causes Hitmonlee to take a ton of crash damage. That's kind of the strat here. So after a pivot back to Magneton, we make Hitmonlee take more crash damage, then finish it off with our Ghost type after Chuck tried to heal with a Hyper Potion. Third up is his ace, Poliwrath, so I swap to Starmie on a resisted water move, then get some help from a Psybeam Confusion to pretty easily take care of Chuck's especially threatening water fighting type. Breloom is up fourth, so I bring in Ledian, yeah, I know, Ledian, but he actually resists all of Breloom's moves. So even after it tries to Swarm me, our held Chesto Berry wakes us up and gives Ledian more KOs in this run than Volbeat. I guess I know who the better bug type is now. Fifth up for Chuck is Hitmonchan, who's rocking the elemental punches, so I bring Floatzel in to 1v1 it. I kinda forgot about the whole substitute focus punch combo, and I used Aqua Jet, letting Hitmonchan get a free sub up after I already did damage, so not my brightest moment. Floatzel breaks the sub before getting punched into oblivion, then Gyarados comes in, tanks an ice punch. No, freeze is fine. I'm sure we won't stay fully frozen for like 5 turns. Right? Right? Whatever. I'll just switch into Starmie, who resists an ice punch, then finish it off with the... A crit freeze? You've got to be kidding me. Listen, I just got hit by a 10% freeze. I lost 5 50-50s to thaw out, then I got hit by the 10% freeze and a 6.25% crit. My luck can't get worse than this. There's no way. There's no way. If we didn't get Fire Punch there to get thawed out, I think we would have been stuck forever. The Freeze Merchant does eventually go down, and Chuck is left with his final Pokemon Hariyama, but I'm still losing my mind about this. Lucky for us though, this last Pokemon should be a cakewalk. Its only attacking moves are Cross Chop and Earthquake, neither of which can hit Haunter with the Levitate ability. After a couple switches because it spams Whirlwind, Haunter grabs us the KO, and we've earned our 5th badge of the run. And for the record, Freeze is the worst status in the game, and we need to remove it right now. With the HM Fly gifted to us from Chuck's ex-wife, we can grab the secret potion, then fly back to cure Ampharos, allowing us to challenge the 6th gym. Or not. I guess we have to save the Safari Zone guy. Yay! After taking out the first wave of grunts, we gotta do some double battles with the characters from Sinnoh, Mira, Buck, Cheryl, and Marley. They aren't too hard, honestly, but after we finish those, we get a Golbat named Nurse from Cliff Cave, but more importantly, we fish up a Tentacool on Route 47. With that encounter, we can head back to Route 40 to get the 1% encounter that we were delaying for. Here, you can only catch 3 lines of Pokemon, Pelipper, Tentacruel, and Fione. Does it have the stats of its fellow Sea Guardian Manaphy? No, but 85s across the board isn't anything to sneeze at, so welcome Cruise Director to the team. There's 2 pretty tough fights at the end of this mini Safari Zone gauntlet. First, we've got to take on Admin Ariana just outside Route 48. Her lead Arbok isn't too hard to deal with thanks to Battle Armor Marowak. Vileplume gets completely walled by our new Crobat. I thought Slowking could handle Jinx, but we got frozen again, so Bastion cleans it up. Then Honchkrow is her last Pokemon standing. Magneton can't quite win the 1v1 safely, so I use Furret to get nowhere close to the KO with a quick attack. Yeah, that was a bad call. The recoil damage does finish off Ariana's last Pokemon, so we traded 1 for 1, but I hate losing a Pokemon for no reason. With her taken care of, we grab Operator the Diglett in the grass, then we enter the Safari Zone gate, where we can't heal our Pokemon, I guess. Then we have our final partner double battle of the section against current Rocket Leader Archer and Riley as my partner. Riley kinda throws the entire battle, making this a 2v1 at one point, but I'd already taken out most of Archer's team at that point, so after we take out his ace with Marowak, it's smooth sailing from there. With Team Rocket stopped for now, we get the Choice Scarf as a reward, then grab Spinarak the Tailor from the Headbutt trees. I kinda forgot to use the Safari Zone. I don't know if you actually could even, but no encounter from there. I bet it would have sucked anyways, who cares? Let's head back to Aloline City and challenge our 6th gym leader of the run, Jasmine and her steel types. Jasmine leads with Metang and I lead with Marowak. I always get a little stressed about using inaccurate moves. I feel like a twinge of stress. Thankfully, we hit it, bringing down Jasmine's lead in one shot and bringing out Bronzong second. This one happens to have Heat Proof instead of Levitate as an ability, so Marowak goes 2 for 2 on Bonemerangs, taking down her second Pokemon of the battle, and sending out Forretress third. I swap out to Typhlosion, who gets his berry eaten by a bug bite, greedy ass motherfucker. Then a 4-time super effective Lava Plume gets an easy one-shot KO. Fourth up is Steelix, so I swap to Fione, making her debut, who tanks an Earthquake, which would have exactly KO'd with a crit, but don't worry about that. From here, she fires off a Surf to take down the base 200 defense monster. Magneton is up 5th, so I swap into Marowak to bait anything but an electric move, then bring in Typhlosion for free on a Magnet Rise. From here, a quick Lava Plume to the face pretty easily takes care of another one of Jasmine's Pokemon. That leaves the Olivine City Gym Leader with only her Skarmory left, and as we know from some of our other runs, Skarmory isn't exactly a heavy hitter. I decide to try my luck, firing off a Lava Plume that just barely misses the KO, but it does get a burn. Nice. With that burn damage, we take down Jasmine's final Pokemon, and that's our 6th gym badge of the run. That was a pretty easy one, so let's keep it going. With 6 badges, we can finally access Route 42, east of Ecruteak. There's a few encounters here, like a Machoke named Barber from Mount Mortar, which is just okay, and the return of Clown the soon-to-be Snorlax from Route 42 itself, which is definitely the best thing I could get here. We also grab a Voltaic Ore, one of 2 that we can get in the game. This acts like leveling up in a magnetic field like Mount Coronet and Sinnoh, but like in item form. Welcome to Mahogany Town, home of gym number 7 and an amazing, lovely, fantastic scientist that sells you leftovers. I love you so much. Before we get another badge, we've got to head up towards the Lake of Rage, grabbing a Giraffe Rig named Stand Up Comic on Route 43, look how I spelled it, and a Feebas named Secret Agent from the lake itself. We run from the Red Gyarados because it's clearly sick and gross, then Lance recruits us to stop Team Rocket again. There's nothing any different than vanilla Heart Gold here, but all that matters is we catch a Weezing named Factory Worker, do the normal find the password stuff, then take on pChal, who's pretending to be Giovanni. We KO a few Electrodes, and now there's only one thing left to do in this tiny lakeside town. We do a really easy puzzle inside the gym, yes, it's easy, and now it's time to tango with the tepid Trailblazer of Mahogany, Price. Price leads with Abomasnow, and I lead with Typhlosion. No need to beat around the bush here, obviously my Fire type OHKO's the Grass Ice type, no problem. That brings out Dugong second, so I swapped to Milotic to Wallet since it's only got Ice and Water attacking moves. After Price uses a full restore, I get a little greedy and swap to Lantern to try to speed this up, but the AI swaps into Mamoswine, who tanks my incoming Signal Beam. I didn't predict that, by the way, I was trying to avoid a second heal on Dugong. I swap to Weezing, who I think can win this 1v1, but we immediately get crit by Stone Edge, miss our attack thanks to Mamoswine's Snow Cloak ability increasing its evasion in the hail, and to make matters worse, after barely surviving another Stone Edge, we use Explosion to sacrifice itself and we miss again. Yeah, it missed. Great job, buddy. Milotic can come in and clean up Mamoswine, not without risking a crit from Earthquake though, but thankfully we didn't get punished before picking up KO number 2 of the battle. Next up is Frostlass, so I pivot through Lantern to get some Volt Absorb healing, then into Snorlax on a Shadow Ball that he's immune to. Getting rid of Frostlass's ability to use Stab really limits its damage potential, and combined with our health leftovers, Snorlax is totally in the clear here. A couple crunches is all it takes, and down goes the Ghost type. Next up is Glalie, so I swap to another defensive Pokemon, Bastiodon, as it gets spikes set up. Explosion is the most threatening thing that Glalie can do, so by using my 4x normal resist, we're in a really safe position. I'll just skip the boring stall, leftovers keep us really healthy from hail, then a few ancient powers take down Glalie, prompting Price to send Dugong back out next. I swap into Lantern to start chipping it down, but it uses Rest after taking like a tiny bit of damage, so we're totally free to spam Discharge while it uses Sleep Talk to randomly use moves. Even when it does hit, Lantern isn't really in any danger, so after a Hyper Potion and a few discharges, Dugong goes down and Price is left with only one Pokemon, Lapras. It immediately goes for Perish Song, which is psychotic if you think about it, so now all we gotta do is burn 3 turns. Protect wastes 1, a swap to Typhlosion on a Blizzard wastes the 2nd, then Snorlax comes back in on a weak Whirlpool for the 3rd. That forces Lapras to take herself out, succumbing to the Perish Song and winning us our 7th gym battle of the run. We've got a tough section coming up, so let's keep this going. Hello? Team Rocket did what? I can't get rid of these idiots, can I? After getting some new drip, Silver calls us out for wearing a fake Rolly, and then we got another date with pChal, who's cosplaying as the radio station head this time. His lead Raticate is a tough matchup for me, so I risk Kingler because you've literally never seen him before this, so clearly I don't use him. He does survive and win the 1v1 though, so that brings out Tangrowth second. Crobat totally walls this, so after we use a couple flies and barely miss the range, pChal uses one of his Hyper Potions. After that, we do a bit more damage, then we use a fly to... Whoa, pChal, relax. You don't need to do this. Toxicroak, let's all relax. God damn it. The AI just totally read me. Starmie gets the revenge kill after, and then when Tangrowth comes back out, Magnezone finishes it off to avenge our fallen teammate. Skuntank is next, but since it lost Flamethrower from its moveset for this fight, Magnezone can pretty easily take it down with a couple discharges. Hypno is up 5th, who also can't really threaten Magnezone, so after it spams a ton of protects, a few flash cannons bring down this creep, leaving pChal with only Weezing left. It's got Destiny Bond that we have to play around, but since our first discharge got a paralysis and we're faster, it can't surprise us with one. A couple turns later, we've taken down the first Rocket Executive of the section, but we've got plenty more where that came from. With the basement key gifted to us, we can head down below the city to try to get our next key, this one for the upper floors of the radio station. We run into our rival here, who's got a demonic team of fast Pokemon that hit hard. His Honchkrow gifts Magnezone his 5th straight KO of the video, then when Magmar comes out next, Starmie tanks a critical hit Focus Blast before taking it down with a super effective Surf. That sends out Electabuzz, giving us a free swap to Marowak to hard counter it. Bonemerang brings it down, and next up is the water type starter that I could have chosen, Feraligatr. I make use of Kingler again, but Silver swaps to Gengar for some reason, so I get some free damage before I pivot into Altaria, who immediately gets crit by his Shadow Ball. This isn't going to work now, so it's time for Snorlax to win a 1v1. Using Protect every other turn with leftovers keeps us pretty healthy, and once we eventually get in a super effective crunch, it gets a one-shot KO. That sends out the Pokemon that Snorlax is supposed to 1v1 here, Alakazam. A crit could make things awkward, but thankfully it doesn't get one, letting Snorlax fire off 2 crunches to bring down another problematic Pokemon. That leaves only Feraligatr, so Kingler comes back in and brings it down to the red before Starmie can finish it off with a Psybeam. Card key acquired, so let's run through the Team Rocket Gauntlet up ahead. First, Proton is back from the Slowpoke well, and his team has an upgrade. His lead Electrode takes some chip and then runs away from Lantern, bringing Cacturn out instead. Ledian switches in on a resisted grass move now, then it takes it down with a Mach Punch before Electrode comes back in for his encore. He lets Lantern actually KO him this time, and Proton gives us a 3rd KO for free right after, since he sends out Camerupt in the rain against my water type. Not a great one, buddy. Tauros is 4th, but we've got Shuckle making his first appearance, poisoning it with Toxic and then locking it into Earthquake with Encore, giving Ledian a free chance to get his 2nd KO of the battle. 5th is Crobat, who can't get fully walled by Magnezone this time because it has Heat Wave, but good thing Bastiodon is neutral to fire moves. A few Ancient Powers is all it takes, and Proton is down to his final Pokemon, Weezing, but without a fire move, Magnezone makes quick work of this without risking anything. That's 1 down, 3 to go, so let's jump to our next battle against Ariana. Her lead Jinx is scary, but my Choice Scarf Typhlosion makes quick work of it with Lava Plume. That brings out Milotic 2nd, so I bring in Lantern. Water Electric is just such a great type to deal with water types, but since it has Toxic, it can waste my time and HP by spamming Rest. That means eventually I do need to swap to Magnezone to finish it off, but Lantern did a pretty good job. Vileplume is 3rd, so I try to use Typhlosion to KO it, but Sleep Powder forces me to swap to Glaceon instead, who drops Vileplume to the yellow while almost dying himself. That damage does mean that Magnezone can finish it off, and that brings out Arbok 4th. I bring in my tried and true poison type counter, Marowak, and just like usual, a Bonemerang gets a one-shot KO. Honchkrow is 5th, but we've got another strong steel type to deal with it, Bastiodon. Bravebird is barely doing anything, so leftovers keeps us healthy, then a few Ancient Powers takes down Ariana's flying type. That leaves her with only Commander Marge's ace, Purugly. We've got an Ancient Power boost here against Honchkrow, and this normal type doesn't have any great moves for us, so we're going to stay in, take advantage of that, and that's wraps on this battle. With that, there's only 2 Rocky battles left to go, but they are back-to-back, so we've got to plan this one pretty carefully. We head up the elevator, and there he is, current Team Rocket leader, Archer, staring out the window, ready to end our run right here, right now. He leads with Zangoose, and I lead with Kingler. The entire goal here is to survive a close combat, but if we don't, it's not the end of the world. Thankfully, it went Shadow Ball for some reason instead, letting us get a KO with Hammer Arm. Second up is Houndoom, so I swap to Gyarados on a Dark Pulse, then break its sash with an Aqua Tail after Houndoom sets up the Sun. Archer heals, which wastes my time, but after a couple more turns, Houndoom goes down, and he sends out Machamp 3rd. I swap into Magnezone to catch the Stone Edge, then I go back to Gyarados on a Cross Chop that obviously gets a crit. At -1 attack, I bring in Battle Armor Marowak, who wins this 1v1 since she can't get crit. 3 down, 3 to go, and next up is Archer's own Gyarados. I bring in Milotic, who's pre-burned to activate her Marvel Scale ability. This should bait the 2-turn move, Bounce, so I bring in Magnezone for free here, then take the 4 times resisted move before taking it down with our own 4 times super effective Discharge. Scizor is up next, so I bring Milotic back in as it sets up with a Swords Dance. After we hit a Surf for half, it just sets up to +4 instead of attacking, letting us get a KO without taking any damage. Thanks. Last up is Drapion, but with our defense boost, I stay in, tank a crunch no problem, then recover some HP. At full HP, with Aqua Ring and Leftovers healing, Milotic actually has the bulk to stay in and burn Archer's Hyper Potion and brings Drapion to half before we have to pivot into Shuckle, baiting a water move for Kingler to switch into. From here, Crabhammer takes down the last Pokemon of the battle, and that's the first half of the back-to-back down. Hopefully Giovanni doesn't stroll in here like a mobster and destroy my team. Damn it. Giovanni leads with Persian and I lead with Kingler still, I guess, but we got a nice heal in between battles. I guess it didn't feel like using Fake out here, so after taking a slash, Kingler OHKOs Giovanni's lead with a Hammer Arm. Second up is Nidoking, so I swap into Marowak on a Thunderbolt, and then we probably don't die to an Ice Beam. Cool. From here, a Boomerang secures a KO on the first of 2 Nidos, but the second one is up next. I bring in Milotic on an Earth Power, then set up an Aqua Ring on a Mist Toxic. After seeing that move, a light bulb kind of went on my head, and I want to get hit by that. So after Giovanni full restores, I just wait until it uses a status on me to activate my ability again. A couple Surfs take down Nidoking after that, and Kangaskhan comes out next. I swap into Shuckle, whose entire job is to win this 1v1, and he does, hitting a Toxic and alternating Protect with Leftovers to stay healthy enough to survive and watch Kangaskhan succumb to the poison. Fifth up is Rhyperior, and Protect scouts a Stone Edge, so I pivot through Magnezone to bait an Earthquake, giving me a free swap into Gyarados. An Aqua Tail easily takes care of the Rock Ground type, and all that's left to do is deal with Tauros. This guy is also getting the Shuckle treatment, so after switching into it on a Stone Edge, all Giovanni can do is watch as his final Pokemon gets poisoned, then struggles to do any damage to my freaky looking turtle. From here, we slowly but surely continue to rack up poison damage as Tauros gets closer and closer to meeting the same fate as all its other teammates. In the end, the only thing that's certain in life is death. Anyways, get fucked. I own you. Let's go get another gym badge, huh? After flying back to Mahogany Town, we head to Route 44, headbutt a tree for an Apom named Plumber that doesn't have Technician, so she's irrelevant. Then we head through Ice Path, absolutely crushing this ice puzzle before taking a shot at the 5% Sneasel, which we don't get, and instead we get a Celio named Librarian. We give this Kimono Girl a push and then arrive in Blackthorn City, home of the 8th gym. Just past the city, we try to magnet pull for a Skarmory, but we roll a Camerupt named Tour Guide instead. That's not exactly what I wanted. So to try to get a leg up against Claire's Dragon types, I head back to New Barktown, then surf to Kanto. Inside Toho Falls, I'm cool with any of Dugong, Bronzong, or Quagsire. Hell, I'll even take Azumarill if it's got huge power. Yeah, that sounds about right for this run. Oh sweet, he even has Hustle. Yay! This trip wasn't all bad though, since it made me remember that I delayed my Union Cave encounter. So after waiting until a Friday, we grab our guaranteed Lapras on B2F, and Babysitter should be pretty awesome for our next gym fight. I don't want to waste any more time here, so let's head inside what looks like Bowser's Castle and take on the final gym leader of Johto, Claire. Claire leads with Dragonair and I lead with Walrein. We rolled a Timid Nature here and we actually outspeed with Walrein here. I was not expecting that, but that's a free KO, saving us some HP and bringing out Gyarados second. I swapped to Magnezone on an Outrage, and even though we look like we're being threatened by Earthquake here, it's locked into a Dragon type move. So Magnezone can safely tank another, then get a KO with 4 times super effective Discharge. Third up for Claire is Salamence, and I literally have nothing in my box to deal with this thing. The plan I came up with is to let it drop its own special attack with Draco Meteor, but with its held White Herb, we've got to come up with a way to tank at least 2 Dracos. I pivot to Walrein on a Fire Blast that baits the first Draco, which actually gets a crit that gets tanked by Snorlax, then Bastiodon tanks the second one to bring Salamence down to -2. After a quick pivot to Walrein, our Fossil tanks a second Draco, further dropping Salamance's special attack. After one more pivot chain to -6, I swap to Lapras now, who's got the Shell Armor ability. This prevents critical hits, so now Salamence isn't even a threat anymore. So after protecting for some leftovers recovery, we pretty easily take it down with a 4 times super effective Ice Beam. Claire's second Dragonair comes out 4th, and I really need Lapras's HP for later, so after we protect, I swap to Walrein, who almost dies to an Outrage. Since she didn't though, we outspeed just like we did on the last one, and bring it down with a single Ice Beam. That brings out Altaria 5th, so I swap to Bastiodon on a Dragon Pulse, and since we're taking fairly light damage, everything should work out here. After a few Ancient Powers, Altaria goes down, but our tank is down to the red as Claire sends out her final Pokemon, her ace, Kingdra. Its Sniper ability makes critical hits do 3x damage instead of 2x, which is super threatening to any Pokemon that doesn't have an ability like Lapras's. After swapping her in on a Hydro Pump miss, we get off a Perish Song, meaning we've got to survive 2 turns to win this battle. I risk Glaceon's life, mostly because Lapras kind of replaced him as my go-to Ice type, but we dodge a crit, then go back into Lapras to finish this battle off. Our Protect seals Kingdra's fate, and we've won the 8th and final gym badge of this run. Next stop, the Pokemon League. Well, okay, not like next stop, but like it's definitely on the schedule at some point. We actually have to get the badge like for real, since Claire's being a sore loser, so we head into the Dragon's Den, tell on her to Sensei, and then actually put the final badge in the case. After we leave and go back in, we get gifted a random middle stage pseudo legendary, which I definitely remembered to record. So welcome social worker the Dragonair to the team. Speaking of gift encounters, I actually read the documentation again and saw that there's a free Riolu egg back in Mahogany Town. After some running around, we hatched Trainer the Riolu, and with its modest nature, it would have been so good against Price. But I'm gonna try not to think about it and look straight ahead to our next gauntlet, the Kimono Girls. We've got to take down all 7 evolutions in a row without healing or changing our team order. Lucario is actually a fantastic lead here against the dark type Umbreon. We resist all its moves and Orsphere gets us a pretty fast 2-shot KO, so we're pretty quickly onto the second evolution, Espeon. My plan here is to use Girafarig for the first time, but she takes way more damage than I thought she would from resisted Psychic, so my plan is looking a lot worse. We do dodge 2 crits in the process, but our Palindrome pony barely makes it out of the 1v1. Third up is Leafeon, who gets fully walled by Altaria. Swords Dance is a little scary, especially since it got up to +4 attack after we missed our KO with Fly, so instead of risking my Dragon type, I make the choice to sack Girafarig and let Lucario get a guaranteed KO with priority Extreme Speed. The evolution that I picked is up 4th, but since I'm leading with Lucario, we take care of it pretty easily with a couple flash cannons. That leaves us with only the original 3 to take down, the first of them being Flareon. Gyarados should do pretty well here, but a Fire Blast burn plus a Sunny Day on the next turn really limits our damage output. We only managed to get it to about half before I need to swap to Snorlax to finish the job. He can pull it off, but now we've lost some HP on my answer for another evolution down the line. Not for the next one though, since Jolteon basically just gets fully walled by Volt Absorber Lantern, so a couple Surfs bring it down, leaving the Kimono Girls with only Vaporeon as their last hope. I decide to get some chip with Lantern to make up for Snorlax's lack of HP, but we get more than just chip, getting a critical hit on our second discharge, taking down the final evolution and getting us through this Kimono Girls gauntlet. As a reward for our victory, they give us the Clear Bell, which is basically like a K-pop meet and greet ticket for Ho-Oh. So we head up the tower, catching a Xatu named Activist along the way. Then we see the legendary bird and run away immediately, leaving the Kimono Girls that are kind of just standing there like, why did you do that? I ignore the stairs, fly back to New Park Town, and begin our quest towards the Pokemon League. We surf along Route 27 and 26, grabbing the second and final Voltaic ore to evolve Nosepass into Probopass after he's been waiting basically the entire game. We grab a Sandslash named, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but you'll never see him again, so we'll move to Route 26 where I accidentally kill my Arbok, wasting the encounter before Victory Road. There's no trainers in here, just our final encounter in Steelix and our final battle against Silver. He leads with Honchkrow and I lead with Minun. Yeah, remember this guy from Route 36? Yeah, he actually gets to do something. That's a free KO, and second up is the starter that I didn't choose, for Alligator. I swap to Gyarados to dodge an Earthquake, then take advantage of the Intimidate attack drop by swapping to Lapras to fully wall it. A couple Thunderbolts later, and Silver Starter swiftly slides into its slumber. Third up is Electivire, so I bring in Marowak on a light screen for free, then since we aren't risking a crit, we take an Ice Punch before getting a KO with Bone Meringue. That sends out Alakazam, so I try to swap into Snorlax, but it kinda reads my shit since it smashed a Focus Blast into my normal type. I'm gonna bank on Alakazam either missing or not getting a crit, but honestly we also could have been risking just a high roll. Look at that shit. Thankfully, we don't get punished, and Crunch takes care of our Fire Red Omega Hall of Famer. Magmortar is 5th, so I swap into Dugtrio on a Thunderbolt that he's immune to, then fire off an Earthquake that apparently doesn't KO before a Fire Blast knocks us to 5 HP. Our ground type finishes it off with another Earthquake before Silver's last Pokemon, Gengar, comes out, but since we're so close to the end and I know Dugtrio is not coming to the Elite Four, I just take this chance to get some big damage with Sucker Punch, then we go down to a Shadow Ball. I bring Lapras in now, who uses Perish Song, giving us a clear win condition. All we've got to do is protect to waste the first turn, swap to Minun on a Thunderbolt to burn the second, then back into Lapras on the final one, taking care of Gengar and winning us the final battle before the Elite Four. Now, go cut your hair, idiot. After Silver runs away, we take a few steps forward and we've made it, the Indigo Plateau, for the second time in the Drayano Gauntlet. Just like last time, let's talk about the team. My general strategy is this: find some strong, fast Pokemon who could sweep a majority of the team with a choice item, then fill in the gaps. The first Pokemon is going to be the main tank of the team, a recent evolution, Probopass. Great type combo, great utility with things like Thunder Wave and Stealth Rocks, and we should be able to wall a couple of problematic Pokemon as well. Next, let's talk about one of the sweepers. Gengar is a pretty obvious one in my opinion. Does really great against Will with specs and gives us some safe switches into fighting and ground type moves. Starmie will also fare really well against both Koga and Bruno, which is great for team slot management. Then a surprising candidate emerged in my head for Karen, and that's Volbeat. It got some crazy stat buffs, rocking 100 special attack and 90 speed, and with Bug Buzz, I'm hoping he can make some noise over there. Lapras also feels like a given to me at this point, having shell armor to help stall out some Pokemon, plus being an ice type to help with Lance is always great. That leaves one team slot left, and it's gonna go to the Pokemon that we delayed for earlier in the game, Fiona. 85 base stat across the board is pretty solid, so she should be able to help with some water stab and some ice coverage for Lance. Can these 6 Pokemon take us all the way through the Elite Four and all the way to Game 3 of this gauntlet? Let's find out. The first Elite Four member we've got to take on is Will and his Psychic types. He leads with Jinx and I lead with Lapras. We've got to slow this thing down for our sweeper, so after Lapras takes a really strong Focus Blast, we get off a Thunder Wave for the paralysis. I kind of wanted Jinx to put us to sleep there, but now we won't survive another Focus Blast, so I risk the swap into Gengar, and thankfully we don't get punished since Jinx just stayed fully paralyzed. With the held choice specs and our 110 base speed, we should outspeed and OHKO every single Pokemon on Will's team. So we secure a KO on Jinx, Gardevoir, Lunatone, Slowbro, Solrock, and thanks to its minus speed nature, it shouldn't be a concern, Xatu. That's one of the easiest Elite Four battles I've ever done, and it's in an advanced difficulty RomHack. Let's keep this going. We'll keep the original Elite Four order for now, since the second Elite Four member we're going to take on is Koga and his team of poison types. He leads with Venomoth and I lead with Probopass. This thing was changed into a bug psychic type in this game, and it really gave me a headache when planning this Elite Four. But then I realized, I don't need to start my sweep on the first Pokemon. Why not just win the 1v1 with Probopass first? So after we set up Stealth Rocks and paralyze it, a couple Power Gems take down Koga's lead, and he sends out Toxicroak second. Having a Pokemon that's 4 times weak to something is super good in these ROM hacks because we can consistently bait certain moves. Like I know it's going to go Cross Chop right now, so I can freely switch into Gengar. I want to waste its Sucker Punch PP because that can ruin my plan, but the AI never uses it for some reason, so after I pivot back through Probopass to bait another Cross Chop, I bring in the star of the show, Starmie. From here, it still doesn't Sucker Punch, thank God, so we get a one-shot KO with Choice Specs boosted Psychic. That brings out Weezing next, but he meets the same fate as Toxicroak, getting outsped and destroyed by a Psychic. Next up is Crobat, who could probably get a KO with a crit here, so to avoid this, I swap back to Probopass on a Brave Bird, then get a Paralysis with Thunder Wave before it misses a Heat Wave. This gives me a safe swap back to Starmie on a double team, then we avoid the evasion boost and get a KO with Psychic. Fifth up is Muck, who's basically just Weezing 2.0, so we'll do the same thing we did to it, outspeeding and getting a KO with Choice Specs Psychic. That leaves the former Kanto gym leader with only his Tentacruel left, but that's no problem. One more Psychic makes quick work of, really? It survived that? Well, a crit Poison Jab wouldn't have KO'd anyways, but that would have been scary if we took any chip damage along the way. Nothing to worry about though, since Koga's final Pokemon goes down to another Psychic, and we're officially halfway through the Elite Four. Let's keep it going. I've decided to keep this OG order going, so next up is going to be Bruno and his fighting types. He leads with Hitmontop and I lead with Starmie. As we learned in the last battle, the AI never goes for Sucker Punch, so a Choice Spec Psychic gets us our first KO of the battle, and we're going to keep on rolling from here. Second is Hariyama, but as someone who used this a lot in the early game, I know it definitely isn't standing up to Starmie. Psychic gets us an easy KO, and third up is the problem Pokemon of this battle, Lucario. I swap to Lapras on a Dark Pulse, and her entire job is to get a little bit of chip to make sure Starmie actually kills it, since Psychic is only doing neutral damage. After protecting for Leftovers recovery, we tank an Aura Sphere before hitting a Surf, which does enough damage that I feel comfortable going back to Starmie on the now resisted Aura Sphere. Then from here, we outspeed and make use of the Choice Specs again, getting a KO with Psychic. From here, Starmie isn't threatened by anything left on Bruno's team, so we outspeed and make pretty quick work of Hitmonchan, Machamp, and Hitmonlee. Just like that, we're one battle away from fighting the champion. The final Elite Four member we gotta beat in this run is Karen and her Dark types. She leads with Mightyena, and I lead with Probopass. Since I decided to use Volbeat as my sweeper for this battle, for some reason, why did I do that? Anyways, the goal here is to get up Stealth Rocks, paralyze it with Thunder Wave, then pivot through Fiona into Volbeat to make sure we aren't taking a Fire Fang to the face. From here, a Choice Specs boosted Bug Buzz takes care of Karen's lead, and she brings out Houndoom second. I'm a little scared that neutral Bug Buzz isn't enough here, so I make use of Lapras's bulk and inability to get crit to tank a Heat Wave coming in, then dodge a Will-O-Wisp before we take down Karen's ace with a super effective Surf. Third up is Honchkrow, and I'm starting to hate my choice to use Volbeat more and more, since now I'm worried that switching into a flying type move is going to kill us. To avoid that risk, I use Perish Song with Lapras, which will force the AI to switch out in a few turns. So I bring in Volbeat and Karen brings out Absol. This guy is pretty weak on the special side, so Volbeat can pretty easily grab a KO with a Choice Specs Bug Buzz, and that brings Honchkrow back out. Since the big fancy bird took Stealth Rock damage twice now, and I feel like the neutral Bug Buzz will KO from 50%, and I'm proven correct as we bring down the 4th Pokemon of the battle. 5th up is Spiritomb, and I feel fairly comfortable here since it doesn't have a super effective move. I stay in and use Bug Buzz for like 75%, and then it responds by using Embargo, essentially getting rid of our Choice Specs boost. Karen does heal with a full restore, so it takes a little bit of time, but after a few Thunderbolts and Bug Buzzes, Spiritomb eventually goes down, leaving Karen with only her Umbreon left standing. Moonlight heals up our Bug type before we get hit by a Toxic, and unfortunately we don't quite get the KO on the next turn, even with the Stealth Rock damage. After that, Karen uses a full restore, so I actually run out of PP, so I accidentally struggled for a turn before switching into Probopass. If I lost a Pokemon to Choice Spec Struggle, I would have jumped out my window, by the way. In the end, Probopass cleans up what little HP Umbreon had left, and with that, we're through the Elite Four of Pokemon Sacred Gold. Only one battle left to go. The man standing before us is the final hurdle to clear, the last roadblock standing in our way before we get to move on to the next game. Lance may have taken away some victories for me in the past, but I'm sure as hell not letting this run end here. Let's do it. Lance leads with Gyarados and I lead with Volbeat. We should outspeed here. Really? What's my speed IV? 7? Well, this is a great start after that dramatic monologue. Thankfully, Starmie has Choice Specs and Thunderbolt for coverage, so we can make this a 5v5 pretty easily, but with Aerodactyl coming out second, I've got to swap. I bring in Probopass, who should pretty easily win this 1v1, but I don't want to get the KO with her. Instead, we paralyze this Speed Demon with a Thunder Wave, then get some chip with Power Gem before swapping into Fione on a critical hit Stone Edge that didn't scare me at all, not even a little. From here, Ice Beam takes down the Fossil and this baits out the level 60 Dragonite. Perfect. Now with help from our Choice Scarf, we can outspeed and... I forgot to equip it. This is really not going well. Well, at least Starmie is back in for free now, and with the Choice Specs move select refreshed, we can just press 4 times super effective Ice Beam to take down Lance's ace no problem, and then he decides to throw me a bone, bringing out his other Dragonite next, giving me an even easier KO since this one's only at level 56. He's not even done tossing the battle yet, since his next Pokemon is Garchomp, another Pokemon with a 4 times weakness to ice moves. Bro, if you just wanted to hand me the battle, we could have just not done this and went into the Hall of Fame. That leaves the champion with only his Charizard left, and since it's 4 times weak to rock moves, it takes 50% from Stealth Rocks, basically just winning me the battle right here. I do decide to play this extremely safe, bringing in Lapras to wall it and use Perish Song. I really didn't need to do this because I could have just pressed Surf, but whatever, we still take down Charizard regardless, and with that, Lance is defeated and we've officially won a Pokemon Sacred Gold Hardcore Nuzlocke without using a damage calculator. Thanks guys so much for watching this one. Getting through the first half of this gauntlet has been a blast so far, and I'm really looking forward to the tougher second half. If you like this one, feel free to hit like, subscribe if you want to see the next one, and with that being said guys, I'll see you in the next one.